Mr Speaker, I rise to talk on the Taxation, GST and Remedial Matters Bill, but like my colleagues, sir, my thoughts at this time are with the people, particularly the families and friends of those that have been confirmed as deceased down in the South Island. Sir, it's a tragedy for the families and friends, it's a tragedy for the West Coast community, and it is a tragedy, sir, for all of New Zealand. And as the representative for Maunga Kieki in Auckland, certainly I know the people of Maunga Kieki certainly grieve for you. We mourn with you and we're sad for you in terms of the loss of life that has been confirmed today. So our thoughts, sir, our prayers and our hearts go out to the people who have been affected, not just New Zealanders, but also South Africans, British and Australian miners lost today. Sir, I'll revert back to the bill, and as has already been stated tonight, this bill is part of a reform package that our government, this national-led government, has put forward to make the system fairer, more sustainable and better for economic growth going forward. And I applaud Mr Nash for supporting our government by asking for a fairer system and supporting the system that we've put in place. So thank you, Mr Nash, for supporting the national government. Sir, this bill actually falls into our tax reforms and it promotes that fairness and integrity across this tax system. And as has already been stated tonight, it is an important measure to counter what are called Phoenix fraud schemes. And these schemes, as has already been described by many speakers tonight, undermines the integrity of our GST rules. These schemes involve the IRD refunding GST to registered buyers where there is no corresponding GST payment made by that supplier to a transaction, and they deliberately wind up such entities in order to avoid paying that GST. So it's been of particular concern. It is an attack on the tax base, and for that reason, sir, we as a government are intent on closing the loophole. And we've already heard tonight from my colleagues that we have one of the most efficient and effective taxation systems in the world. And despite the protestations of colleagues across the aisle for exemptions on food and other such items, this system is as pure a system as you're going to get across the world. And it's a system which has worked in the past, sir, and will continue to work in the future. Other measures in the bill make it easier for taxpayers to understand their GST obligations and reduce compliance costs, because it's these costs and these obligations and the degree of uncertainty in entering into transactions which actually is a big handbrake on business and economic growth. And it's the measures that clarify parts of the GST rules where taxpayers have experienced difficulties in accounting for GST or interpreting the legislation. Now, as an example, Mr Speaker, the current change in use rules that apply when assets are used for both taxable and non-taxable purposes is replaced with an approach that apportions the input tax deductions according to the actual use of those goods and services. So this is a common sense approach, it is a reasonable approach, and it supports the purpose of the bill to maintain the integrity of our tax system. One of the other measures, sir, is the GST boundary between residential accommodation, which is GST exempt, and commercial accommodation, which is not. And this distinction is clarified, sir, within the bill. There are other GST rules around transactions involving nominees where a purchaser has nominated another person to receive the goods and settle the transaction. These, sir, are also clarified. But the bill deals with an unintended timing problem for non-profit bodies accounting for GST when they supply large assets, such as a house, for a person in need. And there are other, as has been described, Sir, technical amendments which the Select Committee assessed and made certain tweaks to in bringing the bill back to the House. Sir, these include allowing portfolio entities a deduction for credit impairments and clarifying the tax treatment of superannuation funds under the National Provident Fund. We heard 6 submissions in Select Committee, and these were received from a wide range of interest groups and individuals, and the changes that we made are pretty much accepted across the House. And Sir, I recommend this bill to proceed through the Select Committee process.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Taxation, GST and Remedial Matters Bill, second reading.
This bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 4.
New Zealand